Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Economic Briefcase. I'm your host, Lubin Davazoka. Today, with us in the studio is a renowned Zambian specialist. He needs no introduction. He has served this government in various portfolios, and be it in commerce, be it in agriculture. He has worked for ZCCM, not IH, but the real ZCCM, and. We hosted him 2 weeks ago and thought that we didn't, exhaust the source. In that, following our, previous discussions, an announcement was made, and the announcement was that, KCM was going back to Vedanta. So today, we are going to, focus much more on the mining industry to try to see how, which ideas we can share with government so that we can, ensure that there's national economic development. You can, send your text messages on the numbers that are appearing on the screen. You can also call in so that we can interact with you. If there's anybody sleeping at your homes, wake them up, because you're going to miss a lot. Today with me is Honorable Bob SICHINGA. Honorable SICHINGA, good evening.
Hi, Dr. Lewin, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Also, good evening to the viewers and good evening to all that are watching us online.
It was a pleasure. The last time we had discussions here, a lot of people, called me and said, you need to bring him just for that particular topic. Mm-hmm. You need to be bringing such particular individuals, people that basically speak, without, leaning towards one side or the other. We need objectivity.
Right.
And here you are.
All right. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Thank you very much. How has been the week?
The week has been fine. Of course, big news with the announcements about which way we're going to go after so many months, and you wonder why it took so long, if that was a decision anyway.
So, we have an issue to do with Sujlight.
Right.
Sujlight was, I didn't know that there's such a mentor, by the way.
Yes.
Yes.
It comes as a surprise to many of us.
Yes.
Okay.
There's Sujlight. What's the way forward? Now, there are people going to trial, and that's the end. All
right. Well, I think the important thing is that there is need for us to obviously review policy frameworks. From a government point of view, Doc, the people look to government to announce the policies that are going to be pursued. And for me, it's quite clear that we have not even addressed ourselves to the issues of policy on mining with the changes that are taking place. Because not only are we talking about Sujlight, okay, we're also talking about what are called rare minerals. Okay, for instance, here we do have some rare minerals in this country, including one from my own home district called Isokite. Now, these rare minerals are very, very important in terms of technology, in terms of funding the sort of like the products that require a certain quality of inputs to be used, or materials to be used in that technology. So Sujlight is shall we say, is more or less in the category of gemstones. Okay, it is more to do with like if one were to do a comparison, emeralds. Okay, and so on and so forth. So these are rare, but they're very precious. They're in the category of diamonds. And Sujlight, of course, is used also for medicinal purposes. And because of that, it has got a very high demand and a very high price in terms of its selling. They sell it in ounce, as a matter of fact. Okay, so clearly we need a policy on that. And also here it looks like the issues of the, shall we say, cadres playing a part. What happens? Who authorized this? How are we managing this? That's why I said we talk about the policy framework. It becomes important so that everybody abides by that.
There's an announcement by the government that KCM is back to Vedanta. Mm-hmm. Your reaction?
Well, I think that my views are well known on this particular part. And I know that there's a colleague of mine drew my attention to a couple of statements. One was that there was an article that had been written by somebody, I think in the Daily Mail, suggesting that the reason why we need a partner from outside or partners from outside for the mining sector is because Zambians cannot run the mines. Right? Now, in your introduction, you talked about my having worked in CCM. Now, let's put it this way. If after 50 so many years, we are not in a position where we can run the mines, and for those of us who have worked for the mines, and I joined the mines in 1977. All right, I was the first Zambian financial controller and mine secretary at Mufulira mine, and I was there for 5 years. Okay, and we had at that time Mr. Francis Kaunda as the managing director, who was brought in after the two mining companies merged. And who were the two mining companies? There was RCM, the Ron Consolidated Copper Mines, and NCCM, Nchanga Consolidated Copper Mines. Now, RCM, the Ron Consolidated Copper Mines, had the major investors where the private investors were RST. Now, that was headed, in terms of the local company, it was headed by Mr. David Perry, the late David Perry. Now, that company was owned 68% by the Zambian government, 68% by the Zambian government, following nationalization in 1971. And I was fortunate enough to have been one of the people that went to Nchanga to do the takeover. The other person was the late Governor Mwewa, Simon Mwewa. And there are several other people that we went with. So that was RCM. NCCM, on the other hand, was mostly the investment, the private investor was Anglo, okay? And their main mines were, of course, in Changa. There was also Konkola, and then, of course, there was Kansashi and Nampundwe, which produces pyrites. So I'm saying to the audience, I'm saying to our people, mines were already being run by Zambians. Already. I mean, the money from the last Zambian managing director of Mopani in Kitwe was Emmanuel Mtati. Emmanuel Mtati was trained by the mines. He is the elder brother of Honorable Felix Mtati. Their immediate his immediate young brother is Mr. Obano Mtati. I hope they don't, I hope they forgive me for having to mention them. That these individuals were trained at Imperial College in London. We were together in 1971. So what I'm saying to you is that these people were running the mines. We have been running the mines. Let's go a step further. My colleague, who we qualified with at the same time, Honorable Manuel Hachipuka, right? First of all, he worked for the mines as general manager for Central Services Division in Kitwe. Then he went as general manager for Ndola Line. Then he became managing director, Zambia Railways. Then he came back to ZCCM as financial controller for treasury. I was financial controller for accounting and audit. All right. And then thereafter, he became the financial director for ZCCM. Now, you can't go higher than that. The boss then was Mr. Francis Kaunda. So how is it possible that now we can say there are no Zambians who can run the mines? We're here. Some of us have gone on to become ministers, to become members of parliament. Honorable Hatbuka and myself, we become ministers, and we're here. What does it say? It says that unless the people that are making decisions now, I have never worked for the mines at that level, that does not mean that the country does not have the individuals. So
the foreign direct investment model, what?
That is the challenge that we have. What I'm arguing the following, and that's the principal issue that I have. And I know that there are people that are welcoming this, we want Vedanta. Why did the previous government break that relationship with Vedanta? Because when you come to when you look at it in terms of the agreements that are made between these investors and the Zambian government, I'm saying Zambian government, not political parties.
Yes.
I'm talking about the Zambian government. It is, they agree to certain terms. They agree to certain developments. They agree to bring in certain amount of investment. Now, for me, the mistake was made right from the beginning in 2000. Why am I saying this? In 2000, the companies were privatized. And the privatization process went through the Zambia Privatization Agency. There was a law for it. In there, the provisions were that once these companies had been sold, government would oversee them for 4 years to make sure that they were doing the right thing. And in that act for the ZPA, Zambia Privatization Agency, there was a provision that the government would hold what is called a golden share, such that if those mining companies or the ones that are purchasing the private company, the what was previously public companies, if they don't perform according to the agreement, the government can intervene and say, in the interest of the nation, we're taking these mines back, or we're taking this investment back.
So the golden share is 50%.
So the golden share, no, the golden share is not even 50% plus one. The golden share is that you can intervene because the interests of the nation are at stake. Okay? Now, in this particular case, it was at the time of privatization. Once that process had been done, there was then a new law. That new law came in 2006, creating the Zambia Development Agency, ZDA. That provision of the golden share was removed. I was chairing, at that time I was chairing the Economic Affairs and Labor Committee of Parliament. And we raised this issue. We said this decision is an unwise decision because it will create problems for the future. Now, the agreements that were signed with these companies were not even made public. In fact, they were even being withheld from Parliament. We had to demand, I had to demand as chairperson, I had said we need those agreements to come forward. And that's how we discovered that these provisions had been made by the Manawasa administration, by the way. It was not even Lungu's administration. Now, thereafter, the other side, I'm talking about the Vedanta now, who are the people they brought back, were not performing their side of the bargain. In fact, what happened was that when the Vedanta came on board, all they did is they took what was on stream. I'm talking about materials that were already on stream. They bought it for $25 million. And all they did, they took the stock which was in process and processed it and sold it and got their money back. And that's how, those of you who are watching social media, it was a laughing matter that the new owner, the major shareholder of Vedanta, was laughing his way to the banks and saying that, well, it was an easy sale. And I think the rest of it, everybody knows. So, first and foremost, I disagree with the fact that Zambians cannot run the mines. Because there are several Zambians that have run the mines, they've worked on the mines, there's a tremendous amount of experience, and even since our time, there have been a lot more people that have come on stream. And in any case, until you make that move, it does not happen on its own. Now, a colleague of mine this afternoon says to me, Bob, have you seen the reactions? There's a certain platform on which some individuals are criticizing you and saying that they will harm you because you are arguing, because they've already made the decision, they like what HH has done. I said, as far as I'm concerned, it's not about HH. This is about the state. Presidents are people with knowledge, with experience, or without, with a particular specialization. They may make the right decision, they may make the wrong decision. For us as citizens, we've got a right. They are not gods. No president is God, at least in my opinion. It's not a god. It's just a human being and he can make mistakes. It is for us as citizens to say, this is good for us or this is not good for us. And I'm talking us as a nation, not just that. So let me give you the example. Having sold the mines or having brought this partner, as it were, you lost control. Most of the companies that came on board, the Zambian government was owning shares that did not exceed 20% through ZCCM-IH. ZCCM-IH, which is investment holdings, are supposed to be holding shares on behalf of government, and they are only holding 20%. Now, anybody who has done corporate management knows if you are a minority shareholder, you do not have the level of influence. So, what happens in this particular case, whether it is KCM, whether it is FQM, or indeed for that matter is Vedanta, in this case those are the private companies that are investing, or FQM, or Glencore for that matter, they take charge. They are the major shareholders. So let's look at the problem that we have. If they have put in money in that particular mine, they will tell you this investment we have put in must give us a return. Look, they are here not to do Zambia a favor. It's not a favor, it's business. They have to make a profit. They want to make money. So 20% you can only say up to so much. And if you put people on those boards, right, that are for the mines, and there are people that cannot be able to articulate and have got experience on how the mines are run the world over, or how finance is done in the mining sector, then clearly you will not have people that can argue their way. Hence, you've got a situation in FQM at Kansanshi Mine, the government selling off his 20%, arguing that they've not received a dividend ever since the 20% ownership. And therefore, they agreed to now receive mineral royalty tax. And the point I'm making is this: mineral royalty tax is not a replacement for dividend. It is not. Mineral royalty tax is to pay for the materials you're taking out of the ground. In other words, in the same way we buy materials, blocks for making your house, or for that matter, fuel, it is the same way. If you take a resource, you need to pay for it. So the mineral royalty tax is to pay for the ore that you're taking out of the ground because it is irreplaceable.
Botswana, we hear is a success story.
It's a success
How
story.
can we implement
Well, I think it's a very good example of what it is. And the Botswana government, as you probably know, they were holding 15% of the Botswana, okay? And the first thing they said was that they wanted the processing part of it to move from London into Botswana, and that happened. The next thing they said that we are going to demand at least 50%, 50-50. If you don't agree to that, then we're walking out of the deal, right? Now, what happens is this. Now the proceeds that are coming, the Botswana government is going to say, now we want that foreign currency to come into our country. What does it do for a foreign exchange? It improves it. It improves the resource that's available to the country. Here, I did some sums for the benefit of this particular interview. And if you don't mind, I'll just quote you. There are some regulations that, or the agreements that were had with, I'm just going to use this example, with Glencore.
Yes.
On Mopani, because I think that's a case in point. As we stand at the moment, the Zambian government owns 100% of Mopani. Why is it not right for ZCCMIH to be allowed to go to the market using the information they have about the ore reserves, whether it is at Nkana or at Mufulira, where I was financial controller, and I know that one quite well, okay? And so, if you look at the total production, according to the economic report of 2021, okay, and I've got a copy of it right here. This is the annual economic report. I hope the cameras can pick it up. This is government produced. It's produced by the Ministry of Finance, okay? In here, it says that the production of copper in Zambia is at 800,000 metric tons for the previous year. Okay, 800,000 metric tons for 2022. Okay, now if that is the case, and today, right now as we're discussing, the price of copper is at 8,350, somewhere in that particular region, dollars per metric ton. Okay, so if I have just taken 800,000 metric tons,
yes.
I've multiplied 8,000.
Government figures.
Yes. No. I want to give you the figures, yes, because it's very important to understand, because figures don't lie.
Yes.
So we've multiplied that, and it gives us 6.64 billion that is earned from that 800,000 metric tons. Now, what is attributable to the Zambian government is only the tax that you levy. In this case, the only tax that is being levied is mineral royalty tax, because these companies are claiming that they are making losses, right? So all you have is that. Now, there's something else that happened. When that decision was taken to relinquish the 20% that was owned in FQM Kansanshi Mine, they also reduced the mineral royalty tax from 6% to 3%. Now, at 6%, it would have given Zambia $398 million US dollars. At 6%. At 3%, it's giving 199.4 million US dollars. Million, not billion. Okay? So, if you multiply that by 19 kwacha, which is the rate today, it gives you 3.8 billion. That's what you're getting. If you go to Mopani, on the other hand, under the Glencore arrangement, there was a cap. In the agreement, there was a cap. The cap was that they were going to look at the price at $3,000, period. Beyond that, it is profit for them. In other words, you're not accounting for it. That is how the agreement was. Okay? So, if let's assume for a moment that Glencore at Nkana and at Mufulira were producing 100,000 metric tons per annum, how much would that be at this price, at 8.3? and I've done some calculations, the total amount for 100,000 metric tons comes to 830 million US dollars. Now, what is due to government can only be 3%, because that's what they've reduced it to. So multiply that 830 by 3%, it gives you $25 million. That's all the Zambian government is going to get. Whatever price you have above 3,000 to 8,300 as it is today is for Glencore. And that's the point I'm making to you. If you are talking about people who have never worked on the mines, including our president for that matter, with all due respect, he has never worked on the mines. These issues I'm talking to you about are things because I worked on the mines. I was financial controller. I was in charge of that particular accounting. That was my duty. I was in charge of the accounting as well as the mineral royalty tax payments. Okay? So this is what it does. It's capped. So if you are talking about 3,000, it means that the money on which they are accounting is only $3 million. That's what they are accounting to you for. And at $3 million, you take 3%, it gives you $9 million US dollars. That's all the Zambian government can get. So when the Lungu regime decided to say no to this, for me, it was the best thing to do. Because you have to say, no, the deal is not in favor of this country. There was no way you can take 3 billion when the price, 3 million per metric ton, when the price is at 8.3. In fact, Doc, we can go further now. A little earlier on, it touched even $10,000 per metric ton. So it means that the country is not benefiting from that. Okay? Then let's come to the issue of value addition. How much of that 800,000 are we adding value to? What I've decided to do is I've just thought it might be a good idea to show the Zambian people. This is something that we use for building. Okay? We don't make this. We import this.
That's copper.
This is copper. It's copper cable for basically for plumbing. All right? So you take your copper, send it to them to go and make this, and then you import it at their price. But when you are sending your copper, it is at their price. So when will Zambia, when will Africa, when will any developing country be able to get out of this debt? This is how we've ended up where we are at the moment. And look, I am a qualified person. I qualified as a certified accountant in 1974. I'm not talking from without, Doc. And I've worked on the mines. I've worked for Indico. I've worked for the Industrial Development Corporation. Right? I've worked for private sector, Unilever. So what I'm talking to you about, I've got an MBA from Harvard Business School. So what I'm talking about is not guesswork. I'm talking to you about facts. This we don't make. And that has been my argument, Doc, that the moment you don't turn this into a finished product, you are not going to have the value addition. You're not going to create the jobs. And this person that is actually investing is not going to be bothered about this. And I understand some people that have been putting on the social blogs, say Bob Stinger was minister and so on and so on. Yes, I was. And in fact, when I was Minister of Commerce, I got the mines to agree with me that they were going to be part of the solution by taking this and doing value addition. Unfortunately, the president at the time moved me to agriculture, where I was for a year. Then moved me back just before he died. So there's no way, once you have done a strategic plan, once you have worked out on something, you need to implement it. If it's not implemented, then it becomes ineffective. So for those that are talking about it because of the lack of knowledge of things that happen in cabinet or things that happen in government, I want you to understand that, and I'm told they have threatened that, we'll kill the Bob Stinger. You can kill my body, but you can't kill my spirit. So that's nonsensical anyway. And this is danger that we have when people think that the president is a god. He's not a god. And at least as far as I'm concerned. I respect him because he's a president. But also he does not have, he's not so proprietor of knowledge and experience. So our point is that we have a vested interest in the country. How about our children? How about grandchildren? Including the president's relatives. Including those that are in cabinet. So what we're talking about is not just for us, it's not just for Bob Stinger. I mean, how much life do I have? Maybe another 10 years, God willing. But how about the future? So this is the point I'm making in submitting this. I hope that clarifies the situation.
So you just mentioned about how Botswana went in,
yes,
and the model.
Yes.
Why did then the Zambian government relinquish its interest in concession?
Well, this is the point. But even now, why do you go back to Vedanta? Because Vedanta failed in the first place. It is them who do not. And let me tell you this, Doc and Noah. When you look at the reason why they have been pushing this, they say they are making losses. Okay? Why would a company that is making losses want to hold on to it? Why? And also for Zambia, look, right now people are talking so excited about the issues. We've now got a settlement. We can reschedule our dates. Let me share with you. There is no settlement at the moment. What we have is a framework that has been agreed upon by the bilaterals. In here, you're talking about the official creditors. All right? What has been agreed is not a final situation. It's just a framework. Yes, Zambia, we will give you 3 years moratorium on principle. All right? On the principle. But you will continue to pay interest on those loans during the 3 years. After 3 years, you will be paying interest, you will be paying principal. Okay? And the question I'm raising, if you don't have shareholding in these companies, in these mining companies, if you don't have shareholding, where would you get the foreign currency to pay your interest? Where would you get the foreign currency later on in 3 years' time to pay your interest plus principal? And let me also mention this, that based on my experience as Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, when companies come to ZDA and they say they want to make an investment, from the date when they make the application to the date when they can say, we are now starting to build a factory, it takes more than 3 years. So the 3 years moratorium, by the time we come to the end of 3 years moratorium, we will not have had that investment. Even if the investment came, you will not have them working. But let's assume they were working. In all these companies, you give a tax holiday. 5 years, tax-free. So where will you get the foreign currency to say, now we have, our GDP has increased, now we've got foreign currency in our hands? So the Zambian government will now have to go to the mining companies, in this case, Vedanta, or where my understanding is that Glencore has given money to Vedanta to enable it to get this ore, and I will explain to you what I think it is in my understanding. Now, if they have purchased, again, depending on what percentage you have, but let's assume they go back to the same situation. They own 80%, you own 20%. Where will they get the money to pay you a dividend if they decide, they say they are making losses? But when you say pay mineral royalty tax, all of a sudden they have got the money to pay you. But not at 6%, but at 3%. That's nonsense. Anybody that is smart enough to understand this, these people are not here to develop Zambia. They are here to make money. That's the reality of the situation. So I am making the point to you that even with this agreement, when now the government of the Republic of Zambia, Ministry of Finance, now go to the creditors, and remember the 6.1 billion that has been 6.3 billion that has been talked about as official debt is only part of the debt out of the 17 billion. What happens to the other 11? What happens to it? You still have to deal with it. Maybe this will be the London Club, all right? So where you've got now your Eurobonds, okay, and they have talked about a reaction is that it's favorable. They think, okay, there's something, we can take a haircut, we can do this adjustment and so on and so on. I'm talking about a haircut on what is outstanding, which means the interest that has accrued is included in there. Okay, so they take a haircut, they say, okay, we'll forgo certain interest, we're only going to take 3%. The official interest rate in the overseas markets, you know very well what it has been. It's been at less than 2%. You all know that. I mean, you are lecturers. You know that. And this is what has happened. So they are losing nothing. They've got everything to gain. Now you get agreement with them, and then you go to the individual creditors, official creditors. The major one of which is China, at 4.1 billion of that 6.3. They are the major. And this is why, for me and several others, colleagues like myself, we've been encouraging the president to have gone to China, because this would have settled this issue a long time ago. Because there was no other option according to them. There was no alternative according to the minister himself. There was no plan B. So they should have gone. The president should have gone to China and said to the Chinese, look, we've been friends, we helped, our government helped you to get into the United Nations and so on and so forth. Please look at this in a favorable manner so that we can be able to get agreement. This thing would have been dealt with 2 years ago. Now, this rescheduling of debt, this is not the first time we're doing it. I was involved in the rescheduling of debt in 1982. When the two companies came together, each one of them had its own debt portfolio. So we brought that together. I was flying backwards and forwards among the other people. In fact, for the first time I traveled on Concord because we had meetings back to back between New York and Washington, as well as Paris. We had to deal with that because there were private sector monies as well, and so on. So Standard Chartered Merchant Bank was in fact our advisor. So this process we've gone through before. There's another process.
So it's not a
new thing. How about Magande? Minister Magande. He went through with the under HIPIC, highly indebted, poor countries. In that case, it was a write-off. It was not even rescheduling the debt. It was debt write-off. Right? And we reduced that debt from 7.2 billion to about 500 and something million dollars, which was subsequently written off. So Zambia was free of debt after Peter Magande, my friend Peter Magande, was minister of finance. So this is not new. This is something we've gone through many times. And we are here. Nobody has asked me about the mines. Nobody has talked to Honorable Hachipuka about what they could do. He was financial director of ZCCM.
Speaking of what they could do around the mine, of course you mentioned that human capital we do have. When it comes to financing, you mentioned on how the data can be used to attract investment in this
Right.
into this industry from the foreign market.
Yes.
How viable is this?
No, ZCCMIH, in its articles of association, can go to the market. There's nothing to stop it. Look. This is not rocket science, gentlemen. You lecture on economics, right? You lecture on economics. What is a company called Codelco? What is it?
It's a company in Chile that was modeled on ZCCMIH.
Exactly. They came here to buy the mines here. And by the way, what's the ownership? It's owned by the government.
Yes.
Yeah.
They came to buy mines there.
They wanted to buy the ZCC mines. They were some of the people that participated in bidding for this. Codelco. They had Harvard Business School helping them to do the modeling. You have talked to me about modeling. I was at Harvard Business School. And we use that as a case model. So I can tell you, I'm talking about facts. And I was at Harvard in 1980. So I mean, look, there's nothing new about this. We are here. So this issue of saying, no, we don't have people who can run the mines, we don't have people who can negotiate. Why if the president was serious about it, he would have asked Bob Stinga, Emmanuel Hachipuka, Emmanuel Mtati, and so we would have all gone and helped our country. Because we want our country to be, it's not for HH, no. It is not for his ministers, no. It is for our country, it's for our good, for everybody's good. This is what Botswana has achieved. And there's also, I think, another one that is very much like that in the making. Okay, this change of payment side. If you don't have foreign currency, you know what will happen? Your currency will continue to deteriorate. Last week, the previous week, we had the mining, I think this is FQM, okay, that paid its mineral royalty tax at 3%. And what happened to the exchange rate? All of a sudden, we went to 17 kwacha to $1. Okay? What's going to happen? The people that are externalizing money to Canada, the people that are having to pay dividend to their shareholders, they will go into the market, they get that particular foreign currency, and the next thing, you don't have enough foreign currency. And what happened to the exchange rate? How much is it at today? 19. If you are not producing sufficient foreign exchange, you will never, and I'm telling you as an accountant, I've been in this business for more than 54 years, you will not be able, you cannot satisfy the demand for dollars. There's also another group that is taking a lot of money out of the country. The Lebanese. Okay. You go to East Park. They've got an eating place. Okay. You think they're here for an eating place?
Actually, the FIC report has indicated that there's a lot of money being externalized to the Middle East.
Yeah, it is. I'm just
and
giving you
a lot of
that.
Zambian companies
Not only Lebanon, it's Dubai. And in Dubai, you can't withdraw the money. It is also South Africa. Because in South Africa, you can't just take foreign currency and send it to wherever you want. No, it's regulated. But here it's a free-for-all. Anybody can do as they like. There's a huge amount of money that is going out like that. They come here to clean the money, what is called money laundering. All right? And once they've cleaned it, now it's good money, they can externalize it. Meantime, your exchange rate is going haywire. And when you do that, what happens to the cost of living? It goes up. That's economics, correct?
You're watching Economic Briefcase on Cabinet TVs. You can call us on the numbers appearing on the screen. We have opened the phone lines. Director, do you have any messages? You can call us on the numbers. The phone lines are open. Let's interact. Mamfrila wa Chingora, this is your program.
They should. I mean, look at it this way. The mines, if you don't take care of them right now, all right, the issue of management, it means you must select your people, the quality of people that can run the mines. All right? And the young people that came after Honorable Bajbook and myself, who came after us, they become chairmen of Anglo, they have become managing directors of ZCCM during that particular period. What was wrong with them? So you nothing. So this is just an argument that people just want to use because they've got nothing else to, because they prefer that they use a different method. But I'm just telling you that for as long as we do not get our act together, even this, I've heard some people on the corporate, it's very good now they've found a partner. That partner is taking money out of your country, for crying out loud, you people. Why not run it yourselves? Keep the money here at home. We've done that before. In ZCCM, in 1986, when I was leading the ZCCM, 1986, the price of copper was at $1,900 per metric ton. Today it's at 8,300. Today, as we're discussing right now, 8,350. It went up to $10,000 per metric ton. If you're not making money at 8,300, then frankly you should not be investing in the mining sector. That's what it should be. But that's what's happening in our country. And these people are crying, we want this market, we want these mines, we want these companies.
We have our first caller. Your name and where you're calling from? Yes? Go ahead.
I've liked what she's talked about on the mine sector. For me, who was bonified there and had that work in the mines, why can't they stabilize the CCM again at the whole point of Mopani? Because Mopani itself is like it's foreign, and like even just looking at the mine town, it's not like they get any money out of it really. They are looking like they are left land, even though they give most of the resources to the country. That's just my question, really.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Well, I think that if the question, unless there's another caller, but we can just answer that. I think it sounds like he's a young man. I don't think he was listening to what I was saying. I was making the point that there was a cap on Mopani. 3,000 normal. So for purposes of paying their mineral royalty tax, okay, for taking your ore from the ground and taking it to go and sell it, they are supposed to pay 6%. They were not even paying that. They said if the price of copper is at $3,000, below that we can pay mineral royalty tax. If it's above that, it's our profit. That's what happened. So they are not bringing resources to you. And when they bring the money here, the so-called investment, it goes into developing the stocks. You know what the stocks are? Do you know what the stocks are? When you go underground, where you got your ore body, right? You say, okay, the ore body is here. This is what we've got. The mineralization that is in the ground. You say, this is our mineralization. So you create holes in them. You blast them so that you can extract that ore, so that you can put it in its primary crushers. After primary crushers, you go to secondary crushers. Then after that, it goes into concentrator. You follow that? Then from the concentrator, it becomes powder. you drop it into the smelter. Mufulira has got an electric furnace smelter, so it's very, very hot, 9,000 degrees centigrade. So as you drop it, it melts automatically. So depending on the malt you have, you can either have a cathode or you can have, so those are the things that take place. So when you make the investment, you are investing in opening those stops to make sure that you extract the ore. When you have sold it, that's it. What you have left behind is the ore in the ground. That's what you've got. So you're not leaving anything for Zambia. For as long as you're not even paying the 6%, all right, on the 20% which is owned by the government, then what? So how would you pay for free education? Tell me. How would you pay for the medicines that you're importing into the country? How would you do that? So how would you pay? Because most of the money goes out of the country. In any case, that money is for Mopani, so for Vedanta or Glencore. So if you want it to pay for the fuel, right, for your petroleum, you've got to buy it from them.
Speaking of taxes and the caps, I don't know if you can shed more light on how the windfall tax was supposed to work or was working.
The windfall tax was actually claiming, and this was done under Minister Magande. This was proposed, that when the company makes super profits, so to say, because the price is very good, like it is at the moment, okay, we should participate in that beyond the 6% mineral royalty tax. Okay? Okay, so that was, in other words, a taxation on the super profits. Okay, that's how it was supposed to work. Okay? Now, the moment they say no to that, and you say, yes, fine, that's all right, it's okay, you can now only pay 3%. In fact, it's shocking for me that you would agree even to 3%, to be honest with you. All right? If I were negotiating with somebody, and look at this way, Doc and Noah, the truth of the matter is that you are talking of hard-nosed businessmen. These guys are not going to give you profit just because you're Zambian. They're not here to develop Zambia. For what reason?
And I'm told they hire the best tax experts to just come and study
they
the whole
look at your taxation and so on and so forth.
Advise these companies on
and
how they can.
This is how to manipulate and how to get out of it. So depending on how smart your guys are, this is called financial engineering. That's what it is. You do the financial engineering. And I'm telling you, because look, I was financial controller, group financial controller for ZCCM, man. The ZCCM owned all the mines, all of them. I can literally tell you, let me share it with you for the benefit of the viewers so that they understand that we are not talking from without. The one that had the lowest ore grades is Washa mine at 1.12%. The best producer at the moment is open pit at Inchanga, 4.12%. Mufulira was at around 3%. Now, what has happened, the reason why Glencore is giving money to Vedanta is because now they want the richer ore body at the open pit. Because the one at Nkana is lower than the one at the open pit. Okay? I can tell you details about just that because I was in charge of the computers that we purchased in order to start analyzing that, in order to bring up and assess what the ore grade is like. The richest ore grade is at Inchanga open pit. But you have to move a lot of what we call overburden. You know, all those big trucks that are carrying 100 tons per go to take the cover, the soil that is covering the ore body and taking it out. And you know, that's how those mountains are created. So once you go there, you will say, okay, we are going to extract from the riches first, before we go to the peripheral, because we want to make our money quickly and get out of here. That's what the Vedanta has been doing. So Glencore wants to participate. That's why they've taken money to give to Vedanta. Push for this, make sure that, so it has been given to them. Now, how does that solve Zambia's problems? I would like somebody to, and I challenge them to open debate. Let's debate it. Let's hear, and I'm quite prepared. No notes. Nobody comes with notes. Let's debate. Let's hear, understand, and where we want to take our country to. How will you pay for free education? How will you pay for mineral for meals at the universities of the government? How will you do that? Where will the money come from? Even the CDF we're talking about. If this money was available, we can do more CDFs, even much more than 26 million. And the development in the rural areas is very, very poor at the moment. Why? Because there's not enough money going there. And the model of having to have CDF is not now. With this thing started a long time ago. Yes, the amount has changed, and it's a good thing that has changed. Okay, you cannot take that away from the decision that was taken to increase the amount. But how are we going to fund it? Where is it going to come from? The road infrastructure in the road area is in a terrible state. You just have to go there and see. No medicines because you don't have money to pay for the medicines. So let's not pretend that everything is all right. I mean, this country is not a poor country. There's enough for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. That's what it is. And I'm just telling you, look, I won't be here with you indefinitely, but I can tell you, this decision to give this to foreigners, somebody's going to regret in future. Believe me. This is regrettable for me. And I'm not saying we should not make the investment. I am saying ZCCMIH has mandate. They can go to Wall Street. What stops them? Nothing. If they don't have enough personnel, you're talking about human resource. We are here. Some of us are here. We're still alive. I'm not senile. I'm quite lucid. Right? And I understand this very, very well. Honorable Achpuka is in the same situation. Emmanuel Mtati is in the same situation. They are here. And several others. Gilbert Temba. All right? All these guys, they are here. We know what we worked on the mines. We have been working on the mines. We've grown in the mines. The mines were paying for hospitals. They were paying for social development. The Kalusha warriors of this world, apologies, Kalusha. You are a product of Muthira because these were being sponsored. The Zoom Jovos of this world were coming from free. I'm telling you because I was there. It's not like guesswork. No, I lived in Mufulira for 5 years. Mine farms were there. Twin Rivers, Mufulira mine, Mchanga farms, Mukumpu farms in Mpongwe. They were developed as SCCM. That's what happens.
We saw the resignation of the board chair at ZCCMIH.
Yes.
Madam Dorika Banda.
Yes.
Any comment? What do you think?
Well,
differences in policies?
Well, my knowledge about Dorika Banda is not personal. I know her to be an accountant. She's a very astute lady. Very, very upright. Very, very innovative. My suspicion, and please, this is my personal, it's not factual, but it's what I suspect. I think there was a difference on policy level. And she's a very principled lady. So I suspect she left because there was disagreement.
Okay, I suspect so. I've actually had the privilege of speaking to her, and she had indicated one time that she was called by a previous government to serve.
Where the caller?
Right.
Yes, your name and where you're calling from?
I'm Judith Nange from Kitwe.
Yes,
I
madam.
would like to commend Honorable Bob SICHINGA over the topic about the mine. Actually, he is very right on what he has said. And as a Zambian, 70 years old, former teacher, I would like to ask God to bless him with more wisdom, with more vision. We need such people in our nation. Honorable Bob SICHINGA,
yes,
may God bless you. May God protect you. May the blood of Jesus cover you. We need people like you. And may what you are teaching be done for us as Zambians. May the mobilization of all those that have the knowledge be done as soon as possible. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Caller from Kito, very pertinent.
No, look. For me, Doc, you people teach development economics, right? Right. How do you develop a country? Let's look at it. Every single thing that now matters most is value addition. Okay? What we have, 800 metric tons, 800,000 metric tons of copper. Can you imagine if all we had were many Zamefas? And by the way, I was a financial accountant at Zamefa, later to become chief accountant at Zamefa, 74 to 76. Okay?
Metal
fabricators of Zambia. I was there. And I can tell you, we were producing, we were only using, out of the copper we were producing at the time, copper was about 500,000 metric tons. We were using 5,000 metric tons to make copper cable, to make copper rod, and so on and so forth. I've mentioned this before. I'll mention it here again. Dr. Patrick Nkanza were the first lot, together with our friend Washington Zimba. They was the first graduates from University of Zambia to come and work at Zamefa. I just come from UK and after having qualified. Okay? So we were doing that, and we know what this does in terms of value addition.
Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, I'm Chandra calling from Kitwe.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Bob SICHINGA.
Good evening to you, sir.
Yeah, I think my question I'll ask on ZCCM. You being a veteran, former ZCCM employee, and by the time ZCCM was being privatized, I'm sure you were part of the privatization team.
No, I was not.
The president, who is now leading us, he was a consultant. And you've already mentioned that you've got more knowledge on ZCCM. First and foremost, my first question, when ZCCM was being privatized, as I've already said, you were part of the team. Were you not in consultation with the current president? That's the first question. You explained a lot of things, which is making very sense. And the previous madam who was just called has praised you for having more knowledge. And this is the wisdom we have. We thank God that you are still alive. You work for the system. Now, Honorable Chinga, the current situation we are facing, it's like Zambians in cage. When we have people like you, you've mentioned the Kemba, Emmanuel Musati, Hakikuka, that's quite wide wisdom which we have. Now, why are we wallowing in this situation? When you people are there, because I know ZCCM IH is able to run Mubani at the moment, and the money we are getting from IMF, that can be sourced through ZCCM IH. But I don't know where we go wrong as Zambia. God has blessed us abundantly. So, Honorable SICHINGA, would you please, honestly, can you speak to our Excellency to relook at this issue? You must relook at this issue. And we know that the data is coming back, but that is a big, big mistake we are making. They say beaten once, twice shy. So I'm sure they have got something under their sleeve, of which if we are not very careful, we will never rise up again. But we know that God is there for Zambia. So, Honorable SICHINGA, please, I want you to explain when ZCCM was being privatized. I'm sure you've got more information. So it's the president. Could you please give us an insight over this? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I think there are two questions. In fact, the third one was a comment, but I think let's deal with the first ones first. And in his statement, he assumes that I was part of that privatization.
Yes,
he assumes that, but that's not true.
And I can confirm that Honorable SICHINGA was not.
I was not involved in the privatization, but except in a peripheral way. Peripheral because I was member of parliament during that particular time. And I spoke, and the person who was our minister of finance at that particular time was Katede Kalumba. And I cautioned all of them. I told them, this thing you're doing is wrong. It will come back to bite you. It did. It did. That's number one. So I was member of parliament, my dear brother, please, I want you to pay attention. I was member of parliament. I was in one of the committees in which in fact, the first one was public accounts. I raised this particular issue that it was unwise for us to privatize the mines in the manner that we did, at the values that were put forward. But there was a lot of pressure, as usual, from the IMF and the World Bank. This is what the Western countries do. They use that institution to force African countries to compromise so that they can get the copper cheaply. And let me just explain again, my brother that you are calling. In 2014, we were invited to the EU-Africa Summit in Brussels. I went with President Sata. All right, I was the Minister for Commerce and I was in charge of that particular trip in terms of arranging for the President. And after we had had that meeting, I told the President, Mr. President, let's not sign this. Because what the EU wants, what the European countries want, is we continue to do the production of the raw materials. They continue to process and then send it back to us at their price. Now, my argument to the President was this: sir, how shall we create jobs for our own children if we now continue to send this copper to our colleagues? In any case, we also want to develop, just like they do. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. And I said, sir, we should not sign this at all. In fact, I just advised him, I will not sign it, Mr. President. If you want to sign it, you can. But my advice to you, please don't, because we are simply going to be losing money. Now, I also want to explain to you, sir, that if Zambia decided to process that copper, all right, let's say for argument's sake, just for argument's sake, we are going to phase the export of copper as raw material over 10 years. So every year we are going to take 80,000, we're going to be putting processing, either for electric car batteries, we're going to be putting it into products like this and several others that are like that, the finished products, the brass products, and we said this is what we're going to do over the next 10 years. And we took out of the market, by the end of 10 years, we will have taken out of the market, how much? 800,000 metric tons. Do you know what's going to happen to the price? Do you know what's going to happen to the price of copper? It will go up, sir. And when it goes up, the value and the price of the commodities that are made of copper will also go up. What happens to Zambia? It improves its exports. It improves its earnings. It improves its value. It improves what it's doing, especially if it is for its own citizens. No foreign person, I want to tell this to the Zambian people. I was marketing Zambia as Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, and I went throughout the world, Singapore, in London, in Washington, in New York, in Boston, in Houston, all right, in Europe. We went to all places. Come and invest, come and invest. I went to Japan, and the Japanese, the Americans are very slow to come here and invest. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, which American company has invested here right now, as we're discussing this? Zero. Okay? So I said to them, I said, if you don't come to our country to invest, please don't come back to us and say, oh, these Chinese. All right? If the Chinese come, we'll accept it. But the point is that instead of the Chinese or the Americans, it should be the Zambians. It should be the Zambian government to help us. That is why there was nationalization of the mines in 1969 to 1971. Because there was no Zambian with the kind of money we're talking about. So the government took it upon itself to help us with that particular investment so that the Zambian interests were protected. Very, very wise. And as I've said, I was one of the people that went with Simon Mwewa. We were at Nchanga in terms of evaluating that in terms of the values. So, sir, I was not party. I had never spoke to President HH during that particular time. He was doing his business. I think at the first company he was working for was Coopers and Lybrand, and then of course Grant Thornton came later because they did not go on with the change that was taking place globally. So I did not speak to him at all. I've never been involved with the privatization, and for me, I don't think we should be going for privatization. We should be protecting national interest because that is our biggest safeguard. The other thing that I think you should know, sir, is copper and oil, any mineral, is a wasting asset. Soon enough it will be gone and you will not have the basis upon which you can be able to recapitalize your country. So the other question that you raised, you are talking to me that I should go to see the president. At State House you don't just walk there. The president can invite us. Under the Constitution, we are obliged as citizens, we are obliged. If the president calls for us and says, I would like to hear you, let's have a cup of tea, he can invite any one of us, all right, as it suits him. So, and I'm not new to President. He asked me to help him with the campaign in 2016. I went around with him. He's in the first helicopter, I'm in the second helicopter. So it's not like he doesn't know me. He knows me. He asked me that I should help him with the campaign, which I did. So it is up to him to say, oh, Bob, I'd like you to come back and let's hear what we need to do about this point. If he chooses not to use us, it's his choice. But what we're saying is that it's denying, as you already said, is denying the country the benefit of what we've already done on the mines. Because we worked in the mines. And by the way, it was a very good place for a lot of miners. These lower level miners never used to pay for electricity. All of them used to receive their electricity. Okay?
ZCCM.
You talk about the hospitals. There were, at Mufulira, there were 2 hospitals. If you're not paying, you go to Ronald Ross. If you're making contribution, you go to Malcolm Watson. So I'm just saying to you that this is how it was. And the price of copper was at $1,900. It was not at $8,300. So for people to say ZCM was not properly run, that's a lot of nonsense. That is not true. So I hope that we've answered that particular question, sir. The President is at liberty. He can invite any one of us. The individuals that are here, at least we're still alive, and I'm not sane. I'm quite sane. I think we can still discuss things. I know my figures. I can do my sums. I'm still a good accountant, I think, by any standards. And for those my colleagues that are on various social blogs who are talking about this, and let me just say this, and I'll just divert it a little bit if you don't mind, Doc. I was deputy president of UPND for 5 years. I was in charge of the economics. I was in charge of the politics. Honorable Scotta was in charge of administration. The manifesto you're talking about that ZCC, that UPND has was partly written by myself. In 2003, I provided an alternative budget to the government budget of the day. What was the government in office? It was the MMD. I produced it, an alternative budget. If you cannot produce an alternative to what your competitors are or people that are in government, then you're not worth it. You must have a plan yourself. And that's why for me, I was very surprised that this government did not seem to have an alternative. You just have one solution and no alternatives. And I found that very, very strange. So if the people don't come to help us, we should close this country and let it go down? No, we should not do that. I think that God has given us sufficient resource in this country. There is enough for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed, including those that are coming from outside. They are not coming here to develop Zambia. They are coming here to make money.
Director, do you have messages? We have a last caller.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
This program is very, very important. And what you have done to bring the honorable there, you have done a great job. The only problem that we have is we don't want to use people with experience. We want to use people who can come and manipulate us. There is nothing wrong to use the material that you have. Sure, they want people to be remembered when they die with their own knowledge. God has given certain people so that Zambia could benefit. Now, if you will be doing that, where are we going? It's not about so many papers, economists, what and what. It's about what are you saying? What benefit do Zambia will get? It's very unfortunate. People are highly educated, but they don't want to listen to people who have been in the system. It's very unfair to these youth that are growing, because they have nothing. So my advice, or my way, is I think let the Honorable be invited, and with the people the President is working with. Sometimes the President could be misinformed or wrong advice. But you see, when you are alone and there are so many people, it's very easy to be defeated. But we want people like SICHINGA
even those people who are not yet born, to come and find a level-headed, a well-spread issue. So please, such discussions are very, very important. Please continue calmly. You are doing a great job. But let's have something that Zambians will benefit from. Thank you so much.
Before you go, what's your name again?
Mr. Chewe.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chewe.
Thank you very much. We have heard him, his contribution. Director, do you have some messages before we close?
There are no messages.
No messages.
Well, Doc, let me just conclude this in terms of the way I see it. I can tell you this much. When you look at a value chain, and in this case, let's take a copper value chain. Okay? It has got so many branches that it benefits, whether it's not just employment. But if you do value addition, if you spread that and increase the number of players in that, you make use of adding value to that. And by the way, we don't even have a law on value addition. There's no law, right? If you go to South Africa, there's a law. They must 40% content. They must be there. So we need to have that, okay? I had just gotten started on doing that when I was moved to agriculture, all right? And then brought back. Even at agriculture, I was there for only a year. I was already starting to say, all right, let's not import what we can produce, right? Because we need to start producing it ourselves. You cannot rely on another country. Yes, there are certain products which, because of the weather, we may not be able to, like things like fruits and apples and so on and so forth. But if you look at a place like, I'm just going to use this just not because it's my birthplace, but if you go to Masabongo, you can grow pineapples, you can grow bananas. You know that we import 400 tons of bananas every month. 400 tons of bananas we import. We import 100,000 metric tons of fish, yet we have 40% of the water resource in the subcontinent. Fresh water resource, both surface and ground. Surely we should be the ones exporting. All right? So what I'm saying is a strategy. It's a strategy we must deliberately make ourselves and say this is the way we're going to go. So that we can, it will not happen overnight, no question about it. And yes, there will be sacrifices, but if people see it's going to create jobs for the, for the young people, it's going to create for these opportunities that we're going to have. This, at the end of the day, we will have to eat. Zambia has to eat. We can't say just because we haven't produced this food, then so we people stop eating. No. And that's my point. So each government, and he's very right, Mr. Chewe is very, very right. This is not about political parties. This is about what is good for our country, regardless of which political party comes. And I have lived, Doc, Noah, I've seen sufficient. It is UNIP, right? I was born under UNIP, right? I was, no, I was not born under, I grew up under UNIP, all right? What happened to President Kaunda? He was removed. Even a good person like that, a real solid man who was really, really keen to make sure this country worked. And Zambia had reached a certain level of industrialization. Whether you're talking about juices, if you talk about juices, weren't we getting pineapple juice from Muninunga?
No, yes.
Weren't we getting pineapple chunks? Not only from Muninunga, you can get them from Wansabombo as well. All right? How about Chinkondia? You know the palm oil from Wense? All right? You can get that as well. So you have to deliberately develop this. You remember TikTok? Drink to replace Coca-Cola?
Yes.
All right? It was there. We had reached a certain level of industrialization because it was being pushed.
And TikTok was very nice.
It was very nice. It was a very nice product. Right now as we're talking, all right, and I don't mean to bash anybody, people are advertising South African Carlsberg. Okay? How about Mosi? If we are talking about those that drink, all right? Why not promoting your own home products? You want to rely on others. You don't even have the foreign exchange to pay for it. The cost of living right now, you go and talk to JCTR. What are they putting the figure at? Almost 10,000 per family of 8. Correct?
Correct.
How are you going to pay? How many people are earning 10,000 question?
Very few.
Very few. So the point I'm making, is this: the issue of, you see, you are talking about CDF. CDF is not to put money in people's pockets. The only thing that will put direct money into people's pockets is your social cash transfer. But how are you going to fund the social cash transfer? Who is going to fund it? Where are you going to get the money to pay for that from? if you're only getting 3% from what we've just done the calculations. And that deficit, Doc, you know very well, that deficit is being carried on. What does it do? It devalues your currency all the time. That's why you're seeing now it has gone up to 19. I can tell you this. Did it not go to 22 to $1?
It did.
Right? Just a short while ago, a month or two ago, it happened. The reason is you don't have enough foreign currency. Why? Because you're letting people take it out of the country.
So the minister had the press briefing, and he had indicated that the plan to produce, is it 3 million tons? Is it 3 million tons? And, is that attainable? Is that attainable?
No, right. Okay.
And also, as you answer that question, you also give us your views on mining in Lower Zambezi. If you support that venture.
You know what it takes to produce 1 million metric tons of copper? To get from 500,000 metric tons to 800,000 took us more than 20 years. The amount of investment you need to put, mostly for equipment that goes underground. Secondly, the amount of development that you need to have to, because you've got to remove a lot of burden, okay? You have to process that. That is what investment goes into. So if you have not done that, if the stocks are not developed, if you have not built shafts near where the ore body, because there are certain parts of the ore body which is rich, so you've got to drill there. And it's simply a hole, but it's a costly hole to get to that ore body, okay? So, in answer to your question, to get to 3 million is a pipe dream. Let me tell you, it will not happen. It will not happen under UPND. It will not happen under any other government. You cannot go to 3 million in 10 years. You will not be able to do it. I'll tell you that. And I don't mean to say that you should not make the effort, but the truth of you, 3 million is huge. You're talking about more than 3.5 times what we're producing right now. You can't do it. And I'm telling you as somebody who was actually, I used to go underground when I was at Mufira. I used to go underground every month. Once every month I would go underground in order to understand what's taking place. So that when I'm reporting about the account, and we introduced a system called responsibility accounting. Everybody had to was responsible to make sure that this is done. I introduced that when I went to Mufira. I said, let's everybody account for it. And we put what we call responsibility stamp. So anybody that is approving has its own stamp. It was before the computers, by the way, though. Okay? So if you had computers, we would have done it differently at the time. Because when I was at ZCCM, just before I left in '83, that's when the laptop, the desktop came. Laptops came much later. Right? I was responsible for management information systems. I introduced the desktops at Mufira with a very smart young man called Jeff Andia and Chris Yumbe. So that the institution was a division on its own in terms of so we could be able to do things much faster and deal with that. So to answer your question, to get to 3 million, there's so much you'd have to do to get to 3 million. It also depends on the ore body, the content, what we call the ore content. The only mine that had a very high level of content, almost 60%, was Kalengwa mine. In other words, the whole body that we were mining was almost, the whole of it was copper. Okay? Maybe it came from heaven and it landed there and that was it. But the point I'm making is that to get from 800,000, which is our current figure, to get to 3 million, you know how much investment you'd have to make. Now, the decision of that investment is not being made by the government because you're a minority shareholder. It's made by people who have sold the mines to. Make sense? Makes sense. So that's the issue that you're raising. You cannot get to that level. And the subsidiary question was that the mining in Lower Zambezi. The mining in Lower Zambezi, you have to decide whether you want to destroy what you have now in terms of habitat. Okay? There is a Sensela mine at Kasensela? Kasensele.
Yes.
Right? My God. What has happened to it?
I think it has been put on hold, isn't it?
So the point, this is why I said we need a policy. You need a framework. Not start, stop. No. Decide, this is what we want to do. Consider it very carefully. This is how much we want. This is what we as a country we want out of it. And then you work out the strategies thereafter. Doc, you know about strategic planning, right? Yes. No? Okay. So this is what you are teaching your students. So this is what you need to do. I've explained to you that when I was at Harvard, These were the case studies. We did Codelco. Codelco is Chile. Harvard Business School was the advisor on what they did. Look at where Chile is at the moment. The largest producer of copper. But it doesn't fall from heaven. You have to plan for it. You have got to be strategic. You have to know what you're doing. And that's the point I'm making. Because it's not just about me. I mean, I'll be gone in 10 years. I will not even be here, Doc. I mean, you will remember these words. You will regret this decision you've taken to give away these mines. Because they are a wasting asset. Once it's gone, it's gone. So my point is that let's use what we have now to create the capacity so that we can now start to do the processing. If we are doing value addition, we can manage to put in the power stations, we can be able to put it into a good infrastructure, we can do the connections and so on and so forth. So this is the point I am making to you, that the young people that are coming, we've got almost 7 million young people without jobs. Doc, you are at university, you guys are at university, am I lying? That's what you've got. You don't have, so what do you do with them? So that when you are recruiting 40,000 and you think that you've done a big job, no. We have got 7 million children to get jobs for. That is my point. So mining Lower Zambezi is not the answer, because what you have destroyed is more valuable, because many people come to Lower Zambezi because of its pristine environment. So if you are failing to run the other one, the one which is in Mwinilunga and so on and so forth, how are you going to run the one in Zambezi? And also, who is investing in it anyway? Who is the beneficiary? Is it you? Is it Zambians? No. So I hope I've answered that particular question. Noah.
Thank you very much. You are watching Economic Briefcase on Camnet TV. Today with us was Honorable Bob SICHINGA. We're discussing the mining industry in general. My co-host Noah Njapa and myself. See you next week, same time, different topic. Bye-bye.